Nancy Guthrie. Still no suspects or people of interest in this case, but Pima County coming out and saying they have cleared Savannah Guthrie, the Guthrie siblings, as well as their spouses in this investigation. I want to put this up here from Pima County Sheriff's statement from Chris Nanos on this investigation, saying, quote, "To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and our victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I am begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism." So some big news. Savannah Guthrie siblings, we've seen them in several videos, including their spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects in the
every sobering moment without her weighed heavier than the last. And then a break. It came in the form of a message on an encrypted law enforcement channel that buzzed into the phones of lead agents just minutes ago. Possible match, masked figure, review frames. The name at the top was unmistakable: Federal Bureau of Investigation, responding in real time. Behind the scenes, agents had been quietly analyzing security footage from the night Nancy vanished. Dozens of hours of grainy video were replayed, frame by frame, patterns studied, discrepancies flagged. Invisible to the public eye, the work was meticulous but promising. What the FBI was now preparing to reveal would change the public narrative forever. Because for the first time since Nancy disappeared, there was someone in the footage who did not belong. A silhouette masked, deliberate, fleeting. And now, just minutes ago, agents believed they had found a suspect image that could finally bring clarity to the unanswered question that had hung over this case. Who was the last person seen near Nancy's home that night, and why? Minutes after the notification came in, the lead FBI agents huddled around a monitor in a small, windowless room, lit only by the glow of computer screens. The image they examined was grainy, yet unmistakable. A masked figure moving deliberately near the perimeter of Nancy Guthrie's home the night she vanished. Every movement was calculated, precise, and chillingly silent. Technicians ran enhancement algorithms, frame by frame, revealing subtle details: the shape of the jacket, the pattern of the gloves, and the way the suspect's footsteps disturbed the snow in the driveway. Analysts noted anomalies in lighting and motion, cross-referencing timestamps from neighborhood cameras. The figure appeared at intervals that did not match any recorded activity of neighbors, pets, or street traffic. Detectives began correlating this footage with previously collected evidence from Nancy's home. Minor traces, dropped personal items, fingerprints, and even disturbed surfaces were re-examined under the new lens provided by the masked figure. Every detail was scrutinized, no matter how small. Simultaneously, interviews were revisited. Neighbors' testimonies were cross-checked to see if anyone had noticed unusual movements or strange vehicles. While no one recalled seeing the figure directly, subtle mentions, an unfamiliar car, a shadow in a window, started to fit into a tentative pattern. The question haunting investigators remained the same: who was this person, and what was their connection to Nancy? The figure's deliberate movements suggested planning rather than random intrusion. For the first time, the FBI felt they were not just chasing a disappearance. They were following a trail deliberately left, or perhaps carefully covered, by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. By the end of the night, a single thought lingered in every agent's mind: this could finally be the lead that changes everything. With the masked figure identified in the footage, the investigation entered a new phase, reconstructing Nancy's final hours. Agents meticulously pieced together her movements, the timing of calls and visitor logs, attempting to overlay her timeline with the suspects. Forensic teams returned to the scene, noting footprints, scuff marks, and minor disruptions in the environment that could indicate struggle or hurried activity. Every detail was photographed and cataloged. Investigators hypothesized that the figure's presence coincided with the last confirmed contact Nancy had with family members. The pattern suggested surveillance, someone observing her routine, waiting for the right moment. Cell phone pings and Wi-Fi logs were scrutinized. Investigators traced signals from nearby towers, matching them to the figure's apparent movements on camera. While gaps in coverage existed, they offered enough data to suggest that the suspect might have been methodical, intentionally avoiding detection by conventional means. Family members were interviewed again, not as suspects, but to clarify Nancy's habits, relationships, and interactions in the days leading up to her disappearance. Friends described subtle changes in behavior, her heightened attentiveness to doors and locks, fleeting phone calls she did not fully explain. Could she have sensed someone was watching her? By the day's end, analysts had a clearer picture. The masked figure's path intersected with Nancy's routine multiple times. The precision implied planning, and the investigators knew this was no random act. The night she disappeared, someone had executed their plan with care, leaving breadcrumbs only the most meticulous forensic work could trace. The next day, the FBI focused on correlating video evidence with physical findings. At Nancy's home, forensic technicians had identified fibers and trace particles that did not match anything in her immediate environment. Some matched clothing or materials consistent with the masked figure seen on the footage. Investigators examined nearby streets for discarded items, gloves, masks, or personal belongings that might have been dropped during the suspect's movements. Even minor scraps were bagged, cataloged, and analyzed. Every fragment, no matter how trivial it seemed, could provide a breakthrough. The analysts also reevaluated the small detail previously found in the son-in-law's vehicle. While it remained unclear if the item was related to the masked figure, it now formed part of the broader puzzle. Could the suspect have accessed the vehicle or left traces deliberately to confuse investigators? Forensic teams treated every connection with caution. As the day progressed, surveillance footage from a neighboring street revealed a fleeting silhouette moving away from the area at odd hours. While grainy, it bore similarities to the masked figure. Same gait, same style of movement, and similar height. Investigators cross-referenced this with prior interviews, attempting to pinpoint anyone who might have been out that night with access to Nancy's vicinity. By evening, agents realized the investigation had shifted. It was no longer just a disappearance. They were now tracking a person, elusive and calculated. Every physical clue, every trace. Every fiber had become a vital component in a complex, unfolding puzzle. With the masked figure's path mapped, analysts created a detailed timeline overlaying Nancy's last known movements. Every phone call, message, and home activity was cross-referenced with camera footage. Small gaps in both timelines became focal points, areas where the figure and Nancy's routine might have intersected. Technical experts analyzed neighborhood lighting, shadows, and camera angles to determine exact positions. Motion patterns suggested someone familiar with the area, someone who understood when and where to remain unseen. The precision unnerved investigators. The suspect had studied the environment, likely for days before the event. Meanwhile, investigators re-examined Nancy's appointments, errands, and known visitors. All known interactions were verified against footage and statements. The gaps in the timeline now appeared to coincide with periods when the masked figure was visible, reinforcing the idea of deliberate surveillance. This phase required painstaking cross-checking. Each anomaly, whether a missing timestamp or an unnoticed interaction, became a potential key. Analysts used simulation software to visualize movements from both perspectives, attempting to predict possible meeting points or deviations. By nightfall, the FBI had a clearer sense of how the suspect might have approached Nancy's home, monitored her routine, and ultimately left undetected. The investigation was inching closer, but the figure's identity remained unknown, a shadow in a neighborhood once considered safe. Forensic investigators turned to digital evidence next. Nancy's home devices were examined for unusual activity, her online communication was reviewed, and her known digital footprint was mapped. Investigators hoped the suspect had left inadvertent traces, metadata, Wi-Fi logs, or location signals that could narrow the search. Devices near her home showed intermittent disruptions that matched the timeline of the masked figure's appearance on camera. Analysts speculated these could indicate intentional interference, suggesting the suspect had planned the night carefully. While nothing conclusively linked the figure to the interruptions, the pattern raised critical questions. Simultaneously, traffic cameras and nearby businesses were re-examined. A vehicle seen in multiple frames appeared consistently near Nancy's home during the night of her disappearance. Investigators worked to identify make, model, and license plate details, combining eyewitness accounts to narrow potential suspects. The digital and physical evidence together created a tentative profile. Someone patient, calculated, and likely familiar with Nancy's habits. Every forensic clue reinforced the theory that the masked figure had planned the operation meticulously, leaving investigators chasing shadows while slowly revealing subtle patterns. By the end of the day, the FBI felt a shift in momentum. For the first time, the elusive figure seemed traceable, even if their identity remained a mystery. The investigation was moving from reaction to pursuit. As days passed, investigators cross-referenced hundreds of potential leads.
On day 3, my source said to me, high-level source, said to me that they have towed the sister and brother-in-law's car and that the Nest cameras were smashed, that the back door was left open, that there was blood in the house, forced entry, and that the brother-in-law may be the prime suspect now. That was on day 3. So why is it that that may have been the focus on day 3? You're going to hear some incredible analysis as to why these investigations ebb and flow, how that is 100% possible, and how it is entirely possible it can change as well. I think you'll remember I said that. A lot of times they can change their minds depending on where the investigation takes them, but some big key factors of what happened on day 1 and day 2 that may have led to something called confirmation bias. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. And then the DNA. Everybody's waiting on the DNA from that glove from 2 miles away. The glove that looked like the glove on the ring cam. Does it match? Does it match the DNA inside the house? Is it going to take them anywhere? Is it just someone's glove? We're going to talk about why it's taking longer than it should, and if that's such a bad thing.
Neighborhood activity, vehicle registrations, and local employment records. Analysts focused on anyone with access to Nancy's street or knowledge of her routine. The circle was narrowing, but the suspect remained a ghost. Forensic teams continued analyzing fibers, particles, and other minute evidence. Even the smallest match could validate suspicions or redirect the investigation. Each day brought new insights. Each night reinforced the tension. The neighborhood waited, the family hoped, and investigators pushed forward relentlessly. Tips from the public were vetted rigorously, but few led to concrete breakthroughs. Surveillance analysis and pattern recognition software became essential tools, highlighting anomalies too subtle for the human eye. Agents stayed alert for any sign of recurrence, a masked figure returning, unusual vehicle activity, or new disturbances. Throughout, the story remained suspenseful for the public. News outlets carefully reported the FBI's statements, emphasizing that while leads existed, no arrests had been made. The masked figure's presence remained a central mystery, a haunting reminder of the elusive person who had altered the neighborhood forever. Weeks into the investigation, Nancy Guthrie's disappearance remained unresolved, but progress was evident. Investigators had mapped the masked figure's movements, analyzed critical forensic evidence, and narrowed potential leads. Every day, the team refined their profile, piecing together fragments into a clearer picture of what had occurred that night. For the family, the hope remained alive, hope that continued diligence, forensic work, and public cooperation would eventually lead to answers. For the neighborhood and nation, the story underscored how swiftly ordinary life can be disrupted, how elusive justice can appear, and how much patience and persistence are required to find the truth. While the masked figure had been identified in footage, their identity remained unknown. The case continued to demand vigilance, rigor, and time. The FBI, local police, and community volunteers worked tirelessly, knowing that one breakthrough, one connection, could finally bring closure. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is a story still in motion. Evidence continues to be analyzed, leads are pursued, and hope endures. And while answers remain elusive, the pursuit of truth is unrelenting, a reminder that in every mystery, persistence is the key to resolution.